Florida Governor Ron Desantis ended his fading presidential campaign on Sunday and endorsed Donald Trump just 2 days before the pivotal New Hampshire primary, leaving former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley as Trump's last long-shot challenger for the Republican nomination. DeSantis' decision less than a week after his deflating loss to Trump in Iowa, despite an enormous investment there, caps a stunning fall from grace after DeSantis had been widely seen as Republicans' most promising alternative to Trump ahead of the general election in November. His departure sets up the one-on-one battle that Haley has coveted against Trump, the former president, who's maintained an iron grip on the Republican electorate despite facing 4 criminal prosecutions.
Following our second-place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward. If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
Now, Donald Trump has called on his supporters to help him win by a big, resounding number in New Hampshire as the race for the Republican presidential nomination narrowed to him and his former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. Ron DeSantis' departure sets up the one-on-one battle that Haley has coveted against Trump.
Before we begin, I'd like to take time to congratulate Ron DeSantis and, of course, a really terrific person who I've gotten to know, his wife Casey, for having run a great campaign for president. He did. He ran a really good campaign. We will terminate every diversity, equity, and inclusion program across the entire federal government. And I will instruct the heads of ICE and Border Patrol to begin the largest deportation program in American history because it's not sustainable.
Well, for more on this, let's cross live to Detroit, Michigan, and speak with the global affairs analyst Akindele Akinyemi. He is also the National Publicity Secretary of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee. Good to see you, and thanks for your time as always. Help us make sense of what this pull-out by Ron DeSantis mean for Trump.
Nothing. It's just a endorsement. And first of all, thank you for having me on this evening to your audience. We bring you greetings here from Detroit, Michigan. Ron DeSantis had no business running for the presidential election in the first place. It was all a boondaggle to fool voters. We all knew that he was going to endorse Trump in the end, and this is where we're at right now. Donald Trump is clearly the Republican nominee for the party, and we'll see him in November.
When you say clearly, does that mean that Nikki Haley isn't any match for Mr. Trump?
Nikki Haley is just Nikki Haley was just trying to stir up the woman vote. No match for Trump. He's gonna clean their clocks. We'll see Trump in November.
And for criminal cases, Donald Trump is presently fighting. It still looks a tough one for him. How does the future look for a presidential candidate or aspirant for now, going into an election with an incumbent Joe Biden?
Joe Biden, a couple of things. Joe Biden right now is his approval rating is underwater due to the fact that what's going on in Gaza and Israel, spending $14 billion for aid for Israel. There's a total backlash from the Middle Eastern community here in places in battleground states like Michigan. And also, even though Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble legally, that's not um, that hasn't had any effect on his voters and his base support to make sure that he's the nominee going into November.
And as it stands, it's almost too late in the day for the Democrats to have maybe a possible replacement for the incumbent president. So how does this work for the Democrats, knowing full well that there's no one running along with Mr. Biden?
Democrats have to retool their message. They have to start talking about the Biden administration, as it pertains to what he's done the past 4 years, and also understand the importance of where to go. America's at a crossroads. Whether you are Nigerian, whether you're African American or other, we're at a crossroads in this country, and if we do not understand the value of leadership as it pertains to the 21st century within the framework of the fourth industrial revolution, we're going to get further behind the rest of the world. Joe Biden has to get out there and talk about his message a lot more if he wants a chance of winning re-election in November, especially in battleground states like Michigan. Michigan right now, where I'm at, Trump is leading by 8 points, and the Michigan Republican Party is in shambles. That makes no sense, but it's happening, and so the message has to get out there with the Biden administration about their accomplishments, what they've done in the last 4 years.
Akindele, before I let you go, what are the talking points for both candidates leading up to this big election?
Well, of course, Donald Trump. He's talking his usual nonsense, getting rid of diversity, inclusion, and he's talking about this whole so-called woke movement, eradicating history of color. And of course, his favorite, making sure that immigrants don't enter the country, whether you're legal or illegal, make sure you don't enter the country. But the Biden administration needs to counterattack that with some of the accomplishments they've done in the last 4 years. The most important thing, though, my friend, is we have to get out there and vote in November. We have to take every election seriously, and we need to understand the importance of not just registering people to vote, but get involved with voter engagement and understanding that the stakes are very high in November. And so we do not have a whole lot of time to understand. I mean, things are at stake. We cannot go back to another 4 years of Donald Trump. We saw what he did with COVID. We saw what he did by banning Nigerians into the U.S. We saw what he did with his position on Africa. We just cannot go back. And so until the Democrat and Republican parties get their act together by running more younger people into the fray, we should not even be having this conversation with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It is a crisis in leadership in America, and that we need to correct the problem as voters and stakeholders. We need to step up to the plate and start running for these positions to move us into the future.
And lastly, Akindele, before you go, speaking of which, younger people coming into politics in the United States. And recently we saw a lot of Africans, especially Americans of Nigerian descent, going into politics. You've been following that development closely. Let us in on how much of encouragement that is giving quite a lot of people of color.
Sure. We have a growing number of Nigerian Americans running for office. We have a growing number of Ghanaians running for office. We have a growing number of Liberians running for office. We have a growing number of Somalians running for office, and Ethiopians. I mean, it's just a great time for our African immigrant community to be engaged. The key thing now is the training and also helping people shape their vision and understanding the roles they play in their local communities to become a stakeholder when it comes to this whole political process. We have a voice. Our voice won't be silenced. And as long as you have folks like me on the ground, whether you're sitting on a library board, a school board, or a state representative or a state senator, as long as you have people like myself and others who are pushing those people into the forefront, our voices are going to be amplified 100%. And so we're not going away. We're going to continue. We're going to continue getting into these spaces and helping others understand our true wealth when it comes to linking the wealth between the continent of Africa and the United States.
National Publicist Secretary of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee and Global Affairs Analyst Akindele Akinyemi, many thanks for your time.